Okay. Well, good afternoon. Good evening, I should say. Welcome to the June 4th Planning Commission meeting. Let the record reflect Commissioner Johnson is absent. If you would join me with the Pledge of Allegiance, stand please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, liberty and justice. Very good. All right. Pursuant to Council Administrative Policy, Meeting Rules and Procedures, Section 5.2, comments by members of the public are generally limited to 5 minutes or less if a large number of speakers is anticipated, or if approved by the chair. Speakers desiring answers to questions should direct them to the Planning Commission, and if relevant, they may direct them to the appropriate staff member. Speakers can also follow up directly with staff during regular city business hours. Please file a speaker card with the administrative secretary on the form provided on the counter at the back of the chambers. During this portion of the meeting, those present in the council chambers are permitted to speak on items that are listed under items not on the agenda during this portion of the meeting. Public comments or scheduled agenda items should wait until that time. Zoom participation during this general public comment period will not be accepted. And please note that the Commission's actions are final unless an appeal is filed with the City Clerk within 10 business calendar days.
At this time, Chair Roberts, we have one speaker card in person, Danny Dorman.
Good evening.
Good evening.
What I'm getting ready to recite comes from the state. Before I begin, though, let me start with, I found this interesting thing while reading the requirements, forcing us to give in the density bonus. So let's talk about density bonus. Quoting, when an applicant seeks a density bonus for a housing development within or for the donation of land for housing within the jurisdiction of a city, county, or city and county, that local government shall comply with this section. I can go read through the rest of it, but it's okay because the key word is donation. And I'm going to be snarky now. Donation, noun, the act or instance of donating, such as the making of a gift, especially to a charity or public institution. Keyword being gift. Okay, so what is it that I'm missing? Giving us a duet by making it less expensive is not donating. If we're going to follow messed up California statutes, then let's follow messed up California statutes. Now, this gift might be for a park. I didn't see it in there, though. It just says donation of land. So we need our city to clarify what donation means. Because, and I hate to say this, but instead of a park, how about donating 2 free duets? This clearly falls under donation. This gives us what we need, state-based housing, otherwise known as public housing. That seems like a win-win. And this is not just for Shea. I know they're later on down the road. This is for everyone who wants to drop density and bonus on our heads. But Shea and other developers want to throw density at us like too bad, so sad. Yeah, you're eating this meal. Well, how about asking staff to look into this option? Because again, I read it and there's nothing in there that actually says what we do with the donation. But it does say donate, which is free, which is a gift. And let's find out sincerely if developers have any merit on this. Because I think they'll reconsider if all of a sudden they have to pay for 2 duets. And I think that's worth the sacrifice of a park. And I hate saying that. I love parks. But if it's going to help others who are disadvantaged, who we claim that we want to help for our city, I'm the product of public housing. There are some great things about it. There are some things that aren't so great about it. But I say we do a deep dive into what donation means and see how we can use it to our advantage. Thank you.
At this time, we have no other speaker cards for those present.
Okay, thank you. Okay, at this time, we will engage in the regular Planning Commission minutes for May 21st. There is an amendment to approve the Master Signed Program, MSP 21-001 for Scortini Ranch Marketplace to incorporate a newly constructed Wendy's restaurant. This application is something that is not going to have a presentation to it, but I'm just wondering if it's signage. I think all of you've read the packet. So if there's something that you'd like to talk to on this, by all means. And just a quick staff note for Chairperson Commissioner Brand, you were absent on May 21st. So if you wish to vote on D1,
Yes, I had an opportunity to review the meeting, so I will be voting. Thank you.
fantastic. Okay,
Through the chair, if I could just summarize, these 2 items that you had referenced are on the consent calendar. So if the commission's okay with both, you can simply make a single motion to adopt the consent calendar.
thank you. Okay. Any discussion? If not, I look for a motion to adopt it. Consent calendar.
I make a motion to adopt the consent calendar.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. At this time, I would ask the commission to consider moving an item on the orchard project up to E1. So that we can have a discussion about what's not going to happen this evening. I'm just looking to.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, at this time,
Yeah, through the chair, what I'd like to do is just turn it over to Associate Planner Sarah Uweiler for a real brief presentation on where this item is going tonight. Thank you.
Good evening. Yes, thank you. Tonight, staff is requesting a continuance for the Orchard Grove project, Orchard Grove North, due to a discrepancy that was we came across yesterday in the CEQA part of the project. So just want to clean that up before we bring it back to you guys. So that's our request tonight. Thank you.
okay. That being said,
Request.
very good.
So not the project itself, but just the idea of continuing it.
Okay.
Would you like to open public comment?
I would like to open public comment. Thank you, and Mr. April.
Thank you, Chairperson Roberts. We have one speaker card, and that is Danny Dorman.
Thank you for continuing. I have no idea what the discrepancy is. The fact that a discrepancy was caught is fantastic. What I was going to say earlier about Shay, and I'm freestyling this, so please, my apologies in advance. The project as a whole, now this also goes back to the density bonus comment I had earlier, but specifically within this continuance, I hope that all items are reviewed. I looked at it, and what caught my eye is what started my open comment in the first place. In addition to that, because this is Shay, please make sure that they put fences up, neighborhood fences. Every time I go to Kindred and Balfour, I feel like I'm at a nude beach. It just drives me friggin' crazy. And with these developments, it really should be a standard. The only other gripe, and this has to do with the decision, and hopefully this is the discrepancy, the simple things, such as measuring the width of the road with a ruler on Google Maps, as opposed to actually having a surveyor go out there and determine what the appropriate length is, therefore determine what it is that's done on that street. I put on Facebook, when the class action suit comes up and Shay and the city are put into some type of litigation because of some type of accident, because somebody decided to use a measuring tape, not even a measuring tape, an inch ruler to determine the width of a street, I'm raising my hand and saying, hey, call me up, because I've been complaining from the jump, as they say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
At this time, I have no other speaker cards in person, and in Zoom, we have no hands raised.
Thank you very much, Ms. April. Okay, well, that being said, I'll close public comment and look for a motion. No motion. Okay. No, public comment is closed. Okay, we're going to move on to the,
Through the chair, I apologize, the hand did go up. Would
Oh.
you mind if I check that
oh, by all
speaker?
means, sure.
Susan Harper, did you want to speak on the continuance of this item?
No, I wanted to speak on E1, but I thought maybe you were moving on past the whole section, so I just want to make sure that I can comment on E1.
We're not there yet.
Yes, we're not there yet.
Okay,
so
okay,
thank you.
sorry.
No problem. Okay, but we're about to be there. Okay, so that being said, we are about to embark on E1.
Through the
Yes,
chair, sorry.
yes. Mhm.
Just to document the continuance, if the commission could make a motion to continue the item specifically to the July 2nd meeting, and then ask for a second and a vote.
Oh, it's going to be July 2nd?
Correct.
Okay, very
That's
good.
what staff is requesting.
All right,
And then you can move into the next business, public hearing item.
all right. I look
Thank you.
for a motion.
Sure, I'll move to continue the item until July 2nd.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll move on to E1, design review for dual branded La Quinta Hawthorne Suites, and we have a staff report by Ms. Sarah.
Good evening again. Thank you, April. Okay, before you tonight, as mentioned, is a design review application for an approximately 69,000 square foot dual branded La Quinta and Hawthorne Suites Hotel and associated site improvements. The project is proposed on a vacant parcel on what is referred to as an outlot of the streets of Brentwood, commercial development at the corner of Shady Willow Lane and Los Cielos Way in the regional commercial designation of the PD6 zoning district. Just to provide you a bit of background here, before we start, in 2006, a mitigated negative declaration, or MND, was approved for the streets of Brentwood, along with the approval of a site plan for approximately 460,000, square feet of retail commercial. And from 2006 to 2008, various different design review applications were granted for the different buildings throughout the site as the streets of Brentwood developed and built out. From 2011 on, there have been additional design review approvals for the other outlots, parcels such as the Red Robin, Black Angus, Sprouts, which was most recently done in 2015. So this MND that was previously prepared required certain mitigations, one of which required design review for the outlot buildings, as the tenants were not known at that time, therefore bringing us to tonight for the design review application for the La Quinta Hotel. The application before you for the design review of the 69,060 square foot dual branded La Quinta and Hawthorne Suites hotel is roughly half the rooms are proposed to be designated for La Quinta, and about half the rooms are designated for Hawthorne Suites, who would allow for some extended stay, but no more than 30 days at a time. The 4-story hotel would consist of 151 rooms, an outdoor pool area, covered barbecue, patio, on-site parking, and landscaping and associated site improvements. As mentioned, the parcel is located within the PD6 zoning district with regional commercial designation, which is commonly referred to as the sub area here. The general plan designation is also regional commercial. Hotels here are permitted by right in this planned area of the zoning district. Therefore, the application before you tonight is strictly subject to design review only. The proposed hotel meets all of the development standards, including maximum allowed height in the zoning district, which allows actually for hotels to be up to 60 feet. The project site is located within the western edge of this streets of Brentwood on the corner of Shady Willow and Los Cielos Way, as depicted here on the screen in yellow. Access to the site is proposed via a new internal drive aisle off the existing signalized driveway at Shady Willow and Los Cielos that leads directly into the development. The site can also be accessed with the existing signalized main shopping center entrance off of Sand Creek Road, as well as a secondary access on Sand Creek between Sprouts and the vacant parcels, and then another secondary access on Shady Willow just north of Sprouts. So in total, there are 4 different access points to the streets of Brentwood, all of which you can see here highlighted in red on the screen. The project proposes to construct 121 new parking spaces on the subject parcel, in addition to the existing parking spaces, which are used for the entire shopping center and shared through a parking agreement. Between the proposed parking and the existing parking spaces, the hotel complies with the minimum 151 parking space requirement as required for a 151 room hotel. Parking lot light standards will also be dispersed throughout the new parking lot. As required by our city's code, a condition of approval has been added, which is condition of approval number 19, that requires the new fixtures to be consistent with the decorative bell-shaped light fixtures that are existing within the streets of Brentwood development. And you can see a picture here on the screen as well. The proposed hotel is a prototype that has been adapted to the city's commercial and industrial design guidelines and the streets of Brentwood through modifications to exterior materials that are unique but complementary to the streets of Brentwood. Staff worked extensively with the applicant to modify the franchise architecture and soften the colors and materials to better fit the streets of Brentwood, as well as differentiate between the two branded hotels. The building is broken up with many different planes and depths of projections. These different depths and projections are broken up with different colors and materials depending on the location throughout the building. The main entry columns and main entry columns and end towers, as well as trim caps on the building are the large format tile material shown here in the ivory color. Whereas the sections of the room to the west of the main entry utilize a darker or sand color of the large format tiles shown here on the screen as number 2. Other areas consist of stucco of different colors with deep reveals to provide visual interest to the large building. Given that this information is provided and the information provided in the staff report, the project is consistent with the city's commercial and industrial design guidelines and is of a quality and character appropriate to the streets of Brentwood. Therefore, staff is recommending that the Planning Commission adopt as conditioned resolution number 24-024, approving resolution number 22-012. Approving design review number 22-012. Sorry, too many numbers there. That concludes staff's presentation, and I have the applicant and the architect here as well for any questions, and as am I. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, does the Planning Commission have any clarifying questions for staff?
Through the chair.
Yes.
So I didn't think of this to send you this question until the gentleman was revving his engine outside, so it actually reminded me. I didn't see it noted anywhere, and so I'm assuming it's not going to be an issue, but electrical or air conditioning equipment on the roof is going to be hidden, or it's not going to be on the roof, I guess would be the question.
So they have solar proposed on the roof, and they have an electrical room, I believe, for all the other equipment, but we can also speak to the architect and applicant for that.
Okay.
But the roof plan only does show the solar at this time.
Okay. Commissioner Floyd.
Yes, I have some questions about the extended stay rooms. It says in the staff report that there are 30-day stay rooms maximum. Is that maximum length of stay just a policy of Wyndham, or is it a law in California, or what regulates that?
Sure. So we actually differentiate in our code based on the types of uses and the lengths of stay. So our zoning ordinance says that to be a hotel, you have to have a maximum no greater stay than 30 days. So we're limiting them that way. I also have confirmation from the applicants themselves that they won't be offering stays longer than 30 days, but our zoning ordinance is what is actually determining that.
Perfect. And other than that, I just wanted to say props to the applicant for the solar and the EV chargers. Love it. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Brandt?
In the conditions of approval, they mentioned that the applicant will have 24 months of approval to begin presumably construction and such. What was the reasoning beyond the comprehensiveness? It's quite a large project. Have we seen I haven't seen a project thus far, at least while I've been on the commission, in which that's been approved. So just curious context.
Sure. Yeah, thank you for the question. So design review, you as the commission do have the ability to extend, give it a longer approval time than a year. The request for 2 years here is because due to funding and things like that, it's going to take a while for the hotel to get what they need in order to get that going. And a year is just what we've envisioned is not enough time, but we can also ask the applicant, and the applicant would be the best person to speak on that, but it's due to funding.
Thank you.
Is this an owner-operator hotel, or is this a corporate hotel?
I believe it's owner-operated, but
So it's going to be an owner-operator?
yeah, they're shaking their
It's a
head, yes.
franchise. It's a franchise?
Yeah.
Oh, okay then. All right. Okay, thank you. At this time, the public is permitted to address the Planning Commission. Remarks are limited to 5 minutes per person, except for the applicant, who will have 10. Does the applicant wish to address the commission? If so, please step forward.
Hi, everyone. So yeah, I'm Sunny Patel. My dad's Ray Patel. We operate as Alias Management Group, so we own and operate a portfolio of hotels. We've been in the industry for over 30 years collectively, or 50 years collectively. We have recently entered the upper mid-scale segment, which is what this brand would be. It caters to more business travelers and middle-class travelers. And with obviously the sports complex coming into, we see it as a key what's opportunity for the city of Brentwood to have accommodations nearby as well, especially as when you have sports complexes, you have a lot of teams that travel, a lot of youth, and we see to offer like a upper luxury type product at a fair price. Um, a little more that a lot of people aren't really aware of. There have been hospitality studies that have been done, and a lot of people aren't really aware that for every guest that really stays at a hotel, they actually indirectly and directly bring a fiscal impact to the economy of $300 to almost $600 per person that stays at the hotel, and that's going to local restaurants, local businesses, supporting the local economy as well. So, yeah, I mean, we're proposing this project. We've been operating a lot of hotels, and those hotels are actually award-winning hotels, and we try to keep it at the top percent within the brands as well. So, yeah, we look forward to hopefully getting this approved and moving forward. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioners, does anyone have questions for the applicant at this time? Okay. Oh,
Did you have any questions? Sorry.
no, by all means.
Good evening, Commissioners. I am the project architect, John Vieira, NJA Architecture. Address is 212 West Pine Street in Lodi, California. As Sarah did a great job kind of giving a good overview of the project. Sarah, do you have, by chance, the have a couple additional slides?
Sorry, just 1 second while I get that up.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
As she's
Okay.
getting that, sorry, the echo. Perfect, thank you. So as Sarah mentioned, presenting the project, this proposed dual brand hotel is on the eastern side of the streets of Brentwood. We are looking at trying to create and promote the walkability. So we're creating these walking paths that are landscaped. They also have some covered trellises. So we have a walking path that connects to the Sprouts to the south, and then we also have a walking path that would connect to the existing Streets of Brentwood shopping development and the movie theater to the west. And then we're also anticipating the sports arena to the north. Go to the next slide. Also, that was mentioned, this is a dual brand hotel. So we actually went through a pretty extensive process, design review with the city of Brentwood, but also with the brand itself, so Wyndham. So we tried to kind of work both areas, and yeah, as Sarah mentioned, this is a kind of a little bit of a larger deviation from their typical brand, but we also agreed that the streets of Brentwood and the articulation that is carried throughout kind of the city of Brentwood, it has kind of more of an elevated, higher end kind of feel. So we really wanted to have this hotel have an elevated experience. It's kind of above their typical branded hotel. And there is one precedent that is at the very end of the presentation that shows a pretty good case study of an elevated branded hotel. That's La Quinta, and that is in Santa Rosa. We can quickly go to that. So this is a very using very similar materials that we are proposing for Brentwood. This is a case study that we really modeled off of, and we use as a precedent to leverage a little bit of Wyndham to get an elevated higher end experience for this branded hotel as well. And move up to the elevation. So Hawthorne is the extended stay. It's located to the left, and is that time really? Do I only have, or do I have a little bit more time, or? I'll try to go through quick, and then if you guys have questions. So Hawthorne is on the left-hand side. It is the extended stay. We are somewhat suggesting a kind of a two different brands, but still creating a holistic architectural statement. So we are accentuating, there's an angled roof. It has a slight color that's signature to Hawthorne. That is on kind of the top of the roof element there. That is a signature brand element for Hawthorne. And then to the right-hand side is the La Quinta. And as you can see, we have different forms. There's a very generous porte-cochere for your entry lobby experience. And within that entry lobby is an open concept. It has a lounge, will have fireplaces, it will have a walk-up bar. There'll be a little concession area for market, grab and goes. There'll also be food service at this in this lobby. And then some of the amenities that we're proposing is a 50-seated banquet room. This could be for local businesses to gather. Also, outside businesses come in. So it creates this nice business convention area that house, again, about approximately 50 people. There's Zoom rooms, so we're really catering to working professionals. That is why Hawthorne, that extended stay. We're anticipating business people staying there for 5 days during the working week and conducting business like elements at this hotel. There is a large fitness center, and also that was mentioned by Sarah. There's a pool, spa, outdoor barbecue, and shaded area to enjoy the outside. Kind of going over the broken forms. So these elements that are breaking up the massing, so it's not just one singular plane. It's not just gingerbread. There's actually a rhyme or reason why these volumes are broken up. They actually signify different room suites. So you have Hawthorne with actually two different configurations. And then La Quinta will have two different configurations. And then there's a little bit of a larger bump out. And above that bump out, there'll be a covered patio or balcony on those kind of executive areas that will have, nice views of the city. We are looking at, doing a nice neutral color palette that is resembled in the streets of Brentwood. If you go to the material palette, they're nice, warm earth tones. We are looking at a wood trellis. That's actually would be a composite wood trellis, so not real wood, but a composite-like material to kind of give it a nice sense of warmth and hospitality, a little bit of an elevated hospitality experience. We also feel like this color palette does a great job to resemble a similar color palette to the streets of Brentwood and, what that identity has already portrayed. But if you go down one more, the existing architectural language, it's a little bit of varied. It has some traditional, very similar to what you see on typical strip retail. You also have BJ's, which is kind of a branded, its own kind of element. You have Sprouts. It's kind of nested in the development theme. And then you have the AMC theater. It actually, looks contemporary in a certain window, but around, ties in, more traditional fashion. But you kind of have a variety of like styles. We feel like the hospitality or that elevated higher end experience of the La Quinta, again, ties in really nice. It is a little bit more contemporary than what you see in some of these traditional, but we feel like ties in very well and creates a higher end hospitality experience. Thank you, and if you guys have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer.
Commissioner Spaulding?
Yeah, I think you guys have a palette or a material board.
Yes, yeah, I can bring that up to you guys.
Yeah, that'd
Yeah,
be,
okay.
you brought it. That'd be great
I
for us
did,
to.
yeah, thank you.
For us to see it. I think that my only question is it looks like this went through multiple iterations. And it's not really a question, it's really more of a compliment because we've had other bigger come. I don't know if the
Yes,
commission
okay.
wants to see it.
This is actually the stone facade. The majority.
Through the chair, we'll either need to give him a mic or he'll need to be at the podium so the audio can be captured, please.
Sorry. So yeah, we have these two stone facades depicted here on the left-hand side. The predominant use of the building is in this porcelain stone. So it's going to have a nice, rich materiality, the majority of the building. We're also introducing stucco, stucco is very prevalent in the streets of Brentwood, so that also ties in really good. This is that composite wood. It's got a nice texture, won't age and kind of look old. It will always feel well-maintained and fresh.
And the red was because that's part of Hawthorne's
What's that?
brand. The red for the slope.
Yeah.
It's part of Hawthorne's. That's why you chose red.
It is a signature brand. We did try to see if we could darken it a little bit, just to give it a little bit more richness, but it was something that they pretty adamant on it, keeping that signature color if possible. Yeah.
Okay.
So we did minimize it. We took some of that red. There were more red going on that we took out.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.
I have questions. Okay. So, if I may.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the landscaping.
Yes.
It looks a little sparse, but that's just from a visual on this what we were given. So I guess my question is, because I think the gentleman had mentioned something, he used the word luxury. So when I think of luxury, of course, we're not talking the Ritz-Carlton, but we're talking something that is going to enhance that community, right?
Yeah.
And so, as you know, we're a very park-oriented community. And with that said, I'm just curious to know, because based on what I see, I don't see enough. So I guess my question is, one, is this going to be debris-free? Two, is it going to be drought relevant type plants? And then I want to know what kind of, other than maybe planters, and I don't know if you've got planters set up, but it's a very large building, right? It extends quite at length.
Yeah.
And so, i.e. the trellis, it's nice, but I'm wondering if there would be a consideration of hanging plants along the trellis. I mean, to make it more inviting, as opposed to just having this wood just sitting out. What I'm trying to get to is coloration. We're talking brown and beige. We're talking some trees and shrubs, but I'm wondering if we're going to do a summer and winter type thing, maybe with bougainvilleas. I'm just throwing names out there where there's color so that it really does pop for the community. I mean, it really needs to, this is our first in that neighborhood, in that corridor. And it would really be a plus
Mhm.
to kind of dress that up.
Yeah, yeah. No, I totally agree. I think the 50% of the attraction of development is landscaping. It says a lot. It creates shade and it makes things naturally cooler, not as hot, that heat island effect. We are proposing drought tolerant landscaping.
Okay.
And in the renderings, we actually try to take out some of the proposed landscaping just for visuals purposes of the building only. But there is a full landscaping concept that is realized for this development that will meet and exceed the requirements of Brentwood and really make it feel that lush. Because
Yeah.
I do agree, the streets of Brentwood, it feels like a park out there, and we want to make sure that this development does as well.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
a compliment to your residents that are just across the street,
Yeah.
right, on Shady
Yeah.
Lane. So I would like to see it pop with that kind of a setup, flower beds and planters, if it's allowed, something to consider. And the trellis, for sure, it would be really nice to see something hanging beyond just seeing the wood come out on the entrance, something that,
Yeah, and this is a great graphic. You can see there's an extensive amount of trees parked throughout the development, especially the parking lot,
yeah,
to reduce that heat island effect.
understood. Color, though, is what I'm
Yeah.
after. Okay, so something to consider. The
Yeah.
other thing I wanted to ask is, I know you guys are set up for EVs. Yes, of course,
I
sir.
want to add to it, ma'am,
Oh.
With your permission. See, street of Brentwood existing on Sadie Willow is like, we bought the whole parcel and out of which is almost 80 foot from this, right there. From that is lavishing landscaping, beautiful, is already there. On top of that, we are adding all that. So it's already kind of that area, I already bought it as part of the deal, you know?
Okay.
So there's already a green belt kind of, plus we adopting the extras.
Okay, so don't go anywhere. So you're gonna put some color in there, right? You're gonna put some planters or some flowers or
I'm all
bougainvilleas
for
or
it.
something? Okay.
That don't scare me away.
Okay.
I'll make it look as beautiful
Yeah,
or plus more than what you.
I think that
Yeah,
it would be
so
a wonderful.
We the last La Quinta we built in, and I think what's his name, Darren, right? He's a city manager, or Darren Gale, right? Yeah, he knows me from Yuba City, how I develop hotels and stuff, and
Okay.
his mother lives in Galt, and I built La Quinta from ground up.
Okay.
And in entire Wyndham Hotel, Wyndham has about 26 brands and 9,000 hotels, the biggest hotel company with a resort and all that,
Yes.
timeshare and all. So we built an award-winning hotel, the base construction of the year in entire Wyndham.
Well,
That was last year,
oh, fantastic.
and
Well,
Darren knows about it. So
fantastic. That's a good
and
thing.
not just that, the Marriott guy came to look at my property and offer my son to build a Town Place by Marriott, which we signed the contract. So
Okay.
that's proud of. And Wyndham, to operate Marriott, it takes a lot of things to be approved, and they approved my son outright, looking at my portfolio.
Well, congratulations.
And
thank
not
you.
just that, ma'am, we anticipating make minimum of $5 million on 151. Hopefully we'll go above. And if depend on the TOT, it can bring you almost about $1 million in TOT income a year.
Well, that's
So
very
something to be
impressive.
proud of, which your city can always use for the further
Absolutely.
tourism and all that. And I still remember Wolf Lodge was proposed, and that been taken by Manteca, and it's killing. Manteca is my backyard.
Oh, I
Passionate,
appreciate
very
that.
passionate.
Thank you for
Thank you.
sharing. That's wonderful. Talk to me about EVs. I know that you got set up. How many of them are you planning on putting in preparation for charging stations?
I believe we're going to meet the code requirements on the EV charger. So there'll be I think 2 EV fully installed chargers. And also, there's going to be plumbed for future as well
Okay.
for additional EV. But we will meet definitely the code requirement and then have it all ready for additional if it becomes a demand, which it probably will.
Well, it will,
Yeah,
of course. Everyone's got a Tesla out
Yeah.
here, so, yeah. Okay, well, that being said,
And
thank
actually,
you.
there was
Go ahead.
one comment on the mechanical. So the mechanical, it's we have integrated PTAX at each suite, so they'll have the individual controls. So there won't be much mechanical equipment on the roof at all. It will be pretty clean. There will be solar on the roof that is required, and they are going to go 100% maximize the solar for the building, but that will get screened by the parapet, so that won't be visible from the elevations. So
Thank you.
Thank
That
you.
was my question.
Perfect. Okay,
thank you, guys.
thank you so very much. Okay. Okay, at this time, I'll keep it open for any one individual in-house or on Zoom.
Through the chair, we have one speaker card in person, Mr. Danny Dorman.
I like this guy. And he's the type of person and company we really need here in Brentwood. And we do need a hotel. I know it's not the ideal for some people here, but we do need a hotel. And especially one close to my home, so if I ever get the boot, I can walk to the place. So, geez, so many people laughing at you. That was actually one of my serious ones. But I did have, it has nothing to do so much with the build out, but I was interested in the 60-foot maximum change from 50 feet. Was that something you guys discussed and wasn't amended? Because I saw, and it said the current requirement was 50, and that's a great big, that's a story. And not that it's bad, not that it's a deal breaker, but it is a question of where that, when did that variation change take place? The color difference between the hotels seems to be unnecessary. Now, as the gentleman said, that there are other businesses in the streets and other places that do have distinguishing colors. But to basically point out this is the good one, this is the bad one, or this is the long term, this is the overnight, it really does seem unnecessary. And my concern is more of it being a slippery slope, that we go with everything the way it is, and then all of a sudden here comes Sino, and he decides, hey, I want to make this house half orange and then the other half of it half blue, and you guys already approved something like that. So, and although I may be going to extremes, we are talking about Sino. And I'm glad that there will be charging stations and solar power. But as I said, overall, this is something that's needed. It sounds like these guys have really looked at this. They are willing to work with the city, and they have the stamp of approval from Darren. So there's always that too. Thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, we have no other speaker cards in person, so we'll go to Zoom. Our first speaker is Susan Harper.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have a problem with, the design, and I think there are a lot of benefits to Brentwood. One thing though that came to mind when I first looked at this was not too long ago, there was another hotel chain that wanted to open up closer to the bypass, Highway 4. And for many reasons, one of which a lot of residents felt like being close to a major freeway, it would end up being a truck stop. Anyway, for whatever reasons, that was turned down. And looking at this hotel, it's not that far. It's the same exit, the same freeway that the trucks come by. So I'm wondering, while the pictures of the hotel look all nice and everything, and there's so many parking spaces and all that, what, is there any way to, I don't know what, limit or, I could just see parking, trucks not having enough space, so they park along Shady Willow or somewhere else in the streets of Brentwood where there's a empty space, that doesn't have any stores in it, and there's room to park a big, long rig. And, so I don't know what could be done to prevent that, but that is a concern that I think I and others have, that, it's not that far off from the other one with the same problem. So how would anybody suggest a mitigation on that? That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we have no other hands raised in Zoom.
Okay, thank you, Miss April. That's a good point. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and close public comments. Okay. Okay, yes.
Public comment closed.
Public comment is closed. I know. I was looking at April for my guidance. Okay, and so let's move on then to more discussion. Commissioner Floyd?
I think I know the answer to the 60-foot question, which is that Streets of Brentwood is planned development, PD 6 in the municipal code, and I believe that there's an exception in PD 6 for 60-foot for a hotel at 4 stories. Is that correct, Eric?
That is correct, and that's something that the city council amended back in 2020, specifically related to hotels and PD 6.
Okay.
So that's why.
That explains. And Sarah or anybody, is there any concern about parking for big rigs?
We have not specifically discussed that. I don't believe that would be a concern. There's only striped parking stalls for typical vehicle sizes, so I don't know that they'd be able to park there, but we haven't discussed that specifically.
Okay. All right.
We do, sorry if I may, we do have, parking requirements as far as like how long a car can stay or any vehicle can be parked at a certain time for a certain period of time. So that is a way we could enforce, just through our standard 72-hour allowed for parking. But other than that, we haven't discussed it further.
Okay, so basically there's really no kind of legal way for a truck to park very close to there. So they'd have to go find someplace, or is that?
I would say that's correct. Yeah, all the stalls, they have medians in between or planter strips between them, so they can't even pull all the way through. It's not really conducive for that.
All right. No, thank you for that. Appreciate it. And with that, I'll just move into discussion. I want to say that as far as design, the appearance of the hotel, I don't have any problem with it at all. I actually like it. I like this project. I do have one thing that kind of bugs me is the red wing up over Hawthorne, but that's branding. And so that's just my personal taste, but I'm sure I'll get used to it. Other than that, it's very nice. It seems to me that it blends in well with the streets of Brentwood. The color palette, I'm looking at it right now. It's not wild in any way. I mean, it's basically your 5-color house that everybody has these days, and maybe a 6th darker gray. and then wood. So I really don't think it's wild. The only, like I said, the only thing is you got that little red pop of color, and not my favorite, but it's fine. I like that there's EV parking. If I read the chart right, I think you guys actually have 10 spaces, 9 spaces, 10 spaces that will have chargers, and then a couple dozen more that will have conduit. Nonetheless, and hopefully the proposed solar does go in. These things are important. We'll be discussing that in the next item, actually. So I really like the location of it as far as the soccer complex. I did have occasion to walk down Sand Creek Trail from the streets over to where the soccer complex is going to be. It's a very nice, it's a short walk. I guess it's about a quarter mile. So families, I think, will really enjoy staying there and being able to walk to the games and walk over and watch a movie, or there's several nice restaurants right there, and there's shopping. So I think it's a beautiful location for this, and yeah, I just really like the project. That's pretty much all I have to say about it.
Thank you, Commissioner Brand.
Only one outstanding question I had as far as condition of approval number 16. It references the Shady Willow Lane creating a left through and a right turn only, as well as an updated traffic signal timing to an increased signal length of 120 seconds. And our esteemed traffic engineers here today, so I was hoping I could understand a bit more context as to why that's part of the condition of approval.
So we'll start with the easy part. The reason for the restripe is because what we're noticing is that the left turn from Shady Willow onto Sand Creek is starting to exceed the capacity of the existing lane. So we take the through lane and we add a left turn component to it. So now you will have, in theory, a dual left, even though the number 2 left will also serve as a through. If you are familiar with it, it's the same exact thing we did at Minnesota and Balfour. It's a much cheaper alternative to adding another lane, which is almost impossible. The reason we can do it is that particular traffic signal, I'll apologize for the technicalities, but it's running what's called split phasing, which means Highland goes and then Shady Willow goes. They don't go concurrently, which is why you can do a dual left, because you don't have the conflicting movement on the other side. As far as the timing goes, we will watch it. I would imagine we're close to 120 seconds now, but that's something I can handle. And once this thing's up and running, I tend to go to any signal in Brentwood. And if we received a request that requires any kind of timing adjustment, I will do that.
So if I'm understanding correctly, it's there's already essentially a justification for this. The hotel is sort of adding to that stress on the signal, therefore, not just the lanes, but the signal time increase.
Yeah, it's a minor fix. It's not going to cost them an arm and a leg, and it ultimately, when we look at the bigger picture, you're going to have a soccer complex down the street, and I'm sure these gentlemen and owners are hoping that tons of soccer families are staying at this place so we can get them in and out quicker. So it'll make the whole intersection run a little more efficiently.
Yeah, that's how I understood it as well. Thank you so much for clarifying. Yeah,
correct.
So yeah, that was all. Thank you so much.
I never know when I leave. You guys always call me back. So I'll be right back.
Excellent. Yeah. So moving on from that, I really appreciated the back and forth that the applicant had with staff. It seemed as though there were a number of challenges to sort of negotiate the unique design aesthetics between the streets as well as between these two co-branded hotels, as well as merging them together into a single entity. I've not really experienced that in my hotel stays. Usually they're adjacent to one another. They're two separate hotels, but this is very unique in oneself. Ideally, I would have loved to see it to be a lot more representative of the streets. And I think the way that I digest this is that the proximity to the outer edge of the streets itself means that I think we get a little bit more play as far as what we can accept as far as the how closely it represents the streets itself. The color palette and everything is lovely. It seems as though we've got a lot of sort of proprietary colors and different types of formats that are consistent with the Wyndham brandings, which I understand. I actually like the red, Commissioner Floor, but that's pop color, I guess. Whatever. I did want to comment from the way that we see a hotel of this nature. At least I'll speak for myself as far as with respect to the city of Brentwood. It's really great to see a hotel of this nature appearing on our doorstep, because we have a handful of hotels here. They're mostly located over on Brentwood Boulevard. They're mostly much more economical in terms of amenities and such. So to see a hotel like this, particularly in its proximity to the sports complex, has been shared amongst a lot of people here tonight, is a sort of, well, I would consider to be a welcome change. I see the amenities such as the pool, the barbecue patio, even this 50-person conference room and such. We get a lot of comments from families in the area, especially traveling sports teams and things of that nature, where they want to have a nice place to stay. And this hotel looks like exactly the type of thing in which a traveling sports family or someone that's visiting our city, potentially for the first time as well, would be invited to the, I don't know, I'll call it the greatness that is our city. So I very much appreciate that. And, as far as the amenities, it's like 150 kilowatt hour solar panel array. It's like massive. I don't think I've seen a solar panel array that large. It's nice to see that it's recessed so that we're not creating a giant mirror to reflect all of our bright sun rays from our very warm climate as of today. Other than that, I think, I think it could make a very welcome addition to our city as well as the streets of Brentwood. And appreciate the thought and detail that's gone into this development. Thank you.
Commissioner Spaulding?
Thank you. I just want to commend staff for working with the applicant as well as Canon Architecture, because I think the original submission probably was not going to go as well as this one sounds like it's going, because it didn't meet in my opinion, there was a lot of problems with our industrial guidelines not being met. And I appreciate a brand being flexible, because as I started to say when you walked up here, we've had other brands. There's been some spicy conversations about trying to make brand match Brentwood design guidelines. And we've stated that brands can have what they want, but the city of Brentwood gets what they want, right? Because that's where you're building. So I appreciate the back and forth, because I think the final product looks great. I think it's a great location, has already been mentioned. Not only everyone's mentioned the sports park, but what I'm more interested in is, and since Darren's in the room and he's the superstar for this project, is the innovation center that should be coming shortly. Because that's, you'll be in the pole position from a hotel standpoint, right? If and when that project comes to fruition, you're going to be in a great spot. And even when I look at the design, when I initially saw it, the first thing I looked for was where was the pool, right? Was it near Shady Willow Lane, or was it on the other side from a noise standpoint? And not sure who decided to put it there, but kudos, because we probably would have asked you to move it there anyways, just because noise is a big thing of Brentwood. The lighting, obviously, I looked at the lighting plan. That's not an issue. So I don't think we're going to have any noise issue. I don't think we're going to have any lighting issue. The landscape has already been discussed. So I think it's a great project. I like red as well. Sorry, Commissioner Floor. But it's hard melding two brands of a hotel into one building, but I think it was done very well. And I think it's going to bring, I think in the short run, before the sports complex is built and the Innovation Center is built, I think it could help, ag tourism as well, plus help the streets of Brentwood out as well. So I think it's a great project, and looking forward to seeing the outcome.
Great. Well, yeah, I think it's a great footprint for the city of Brentwood. It will be a footprint for the city of Brentwood, especially because you're going to set it up luxuriously. That being said, though, I heard what the caller had brought to our attention, and it's a real thing to think through. I'm not sure who's going to address it, but I do know, yes, please come forward. My concern is, and I see trucks parked on the on-ramps all the time, and that is something that they do. She's correct. They can park further down the street. They tend to do this late at night, and I get it. They need to rest, but we are a quiet community, and it's really important that we don't become inundated with trucks that are going to, and watch this, park across the street where Rayleigh's is, because that's exactly where they'll park and come across the street. So it's something that we want to get in front of to avoid issues down the road. And I know we have public safety that will help us along the way, but I'm just wondering how you've handled that in the past.
So in most of our hotel right now, the existing La Quinta and Days Inn, we have next door to each other. And it's straight, no big truck, meaning like with the big trailer. First of all, like Sarah said, is poor truckers put up so much. Without their goods, nothing is possible, right?
Right.
Poor people has to put such a big, and they already know that we are not welcome in certain property. They Google it, they check it. Like Sarah says, there's poor guy bring in and they're stuck. He cannot even make a turn.
Okay.
So it's impossible unless it's a waste management truck going there, and that's about it. And fire department also does that, check these issues, So
Okay.
there is no way we can have 18-wheeler coming there, impossible. So we'll have a sign on both driveways that big trucks are not welcome, not in a bad sense. The truckers are welcome, with the cabin even also welcome, they can park, but not with the trailer, no way.
Okay.
Yeah, and another thing, they cannot afford this kind of stays, so they look like in Antioch or further down for the economical hotel where they have extra land. They give them a free parking to invite them, so that's a fact.
Okay, I
Thank you.
appreciate that.
Thank
Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you. I appreciate it. Okay, well, that said, again, it's going to be a great footprint, and all kinds of great things will happen moving forward. Commissioner Spaulding?
I'm ready to make a motion unless there's people. I see Eric raising his hand.
Sorry, can I just make one real quick clarification to the public comment that was made via Zoom?
Yes.
There was a reference to the other hotel project, and just so everybody knows, that was for a Woodspring Suites. It was not turned down, however, it never made its way to the Planning Commission. The applicant actually withdrew. So, just for the record, thank you.
Thank you for that clarification. Okay, with that being said, I look for a motion.
I make a motion to adopt resolution number 24-024, approving design review DR 22-012 as further detailed in the staff report.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Congratulations. We look forward to, yeah, we do. Thank you. Well, you're in good hands. Okay, thank you. Okay. All right, let's see. Okay, we're going to move on to our next safety, right? And where is it? Here we go. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to move on to our next Public hearing, an application for general plan amendment to amend the safety element as it relates to the recently certified housing element in Government Code Section 65302, G3, in compliance with the state law. And Ms. Hagan is presenting.
Thank you, Chair and members of the commission. As you had stated, the application before you tonight is for a general plan amendment to amend the safety element. As a wordy document, I did not put together a PowerPoint presentation tonight because there's not a whole lot of pretty flashy graphics to show you. So I'm going to go ahead and just talk to you about the application. The state requires every city to have a safety element as part of its general plan, and the general plan is a long-term visioning document that guides the future development of the city and sets forth its priorities for initiatives and programs through various goals and policies for each element. The safety element specifically includes methods to reduce and plan for potential risks associated with natural disasters and public emergencies. The safety element includes goals and policies that outline preparedness, methods, and mitigation efforts to address such risks associated with wildfires, floods, geologic and seismic hazards, hazardous materials, noise, and man-made disasters. While the safety element includes overall goals for these efforts, including what is important to the city, the actual implementation of these goals will come through other documents and standards, such as the zoning ordinance or upcoming objective design standards. For example, Policy 5.3 requires fuel modification, such as vegetation clearance and defensible space requirements for new developments in very high fire zones, and encourages defensible space requirements for all new developments throughout the city. The actual implementation of the defensible space requirements and what that will actually look like and what will come out of that will be most likely come from our objective design standards and not the safety element itself. As part of the packet tonight, staff has included the revised safety element and background analysis known as the Climate Vulnerability Assessment for your consideration. Staff is requesting that the Planning Commission adopt the attached resolution number 24-026, recommending that the City Council approve the general plan amendment. With that concludes staff's report. Staff, as well as our consultant team from Kimley Horn, who have joined us via Zoom tonight, are also available for questions. And that concludes staff's report.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hagan. At this time, does the commission have any clarifying questions for staff?
Through the chair.
Yes, please.
So when are the objective design standards going to be completed?
Staff has just recently gotten the first 3 of 6 chapters to internally review this week. We plan on bringing those forward to LUD for initial consideration and review briefly within the next month to 2 months, followed by the following chapters probably a month after that. And it's most likely that it would be before the Planning Commission in, I would guess, August or following that. But the goal is to have everything completed by the end of this year through council.
So what you said earlier was that the objective design standards would address the defensible space?
Yes, and we do have a whole chapter within our objective design standards that will address landscaping requirements for all new residential development. We have heard direction that defensible space is important. We did include that as part of the goals and policies here within the safety element. So that is something that we would be considering and we will be including within the objective design standards for all new residential development.
So so between now and then, someone could turn in an application that's deemed complete, and then they wouldn't have to follow the defensible space update?
That is correct. Right now, applicants are just required to follow WELA, which is drought-resistant requirements. As part of that, staff is encouraging less lawn and more native vegetation and things like that. Those are things that we are encouraging, but since they are not currently codified, those are just conversations that we've been having with applicants. To this point, we have been pretty successful in getting applicants to work with us on those. I think those are things that are moving forward in many communities throughout California. And so they're not new requirements, they're not new policies or programs that developers are seeing. And so it's not something new and unique necessarily to Brentwood. So we have been getting successful compliance.
Yep. Okay, I guess not a clarifying question, so I'll wait. Thank you.
Commissioner Floyd?
I have no questions of staff. Thank you.
Commissioner Brand?
Kind of a follow-up to the vice chair. Is there anything going into the objective design standards regarding flood reduction mitigation? Sounds like fire is, a possibility, but
No, not necessarily. Typically, flood mitigation comes out of the county habitat for conservancy and the planning survey review. And that the county organization has our flood setbacks and what can go into setbacks and floods and things like that. And so typically that's already accomplished through our HCP guidance documents.
okay. And I guess what I was reading in here is that the city was aiming to sort of cooperate with any external entities to sort of, for lack of a better phrase, do their best to sort of aid in the mitigation efforts, because I don't know, I look at these, some of these maps and the flood risk is considerably worse than the fire risk. And so if I was weighing one or the other,
Yeah, I think those are goals and policies that we're going to continue on. They have been definitely things that we have done throughout, the cycle of this safety element since 2014, even prior to that. We have quarterly meetings with HCP. We're also working collaboratively with the county on their hazard mitigation plan for the county. But we do work with the County Conservancy, HCP, on their local hazard plans and their flood requirements.
okay, thank you.
I have no questions at this time. Okay, so I'll open it up for public comment.
I have no speaker cards for those present. We'll go to Zoom. Anyone on the line that would like to speak, please raise your hand. I have no hands raised in Zoom.
Okay, thank you. Okay, at this time, I'll close public comment. Discussions by the commissioner.
Through the chair, this is a public hearing, so we will need a motion to close the public hearing.
Public hearing. Okay, very good. I'm going to close public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, all right, very good. At this time, I'll open it up for the commissioners' discussion. Commissioner Spaulding.
Yep, thank you. So I'm concerned about the timing of the objective standards and defensible space, because we could have, so I understand your point about floods, except people in Brentwood are not getting their home insurance canceled because they're in a fire area. Up in the, I guess, the west side, the Deer Ridge area, there's been a number of homeowners who've had their home insurance canceled, at least according to what I've seen on social media and what have you. And Commissioner Ziegler, before he was no longer here, brought this up as an issue, and the timing does not work for the objective design standards. It'd be nice if it all mirrored up, but I think we also, I think we have to figure out how to get any applications that are not deemed complete to comply with defensible standards, right? And in order to do that, we need a plan, right? And so the timeline of December, January of next year does not work for that. When we have residents who could end up with, if they try to change insurance, have an issue getting their insurance canceled and then having to pay a much higher policy through the state. So I don't know how we fix that, but that's where I was going with my questions, because I know there's a lot of work that goes into the objective design standards, and it's important work, and we can't necessarily rush that part of it, but we need to do something for defensible spaces much quicker than we do for the objective design standards, in my opinion.
Okay, Commissioner Floyd?
Well, I just want to support what Vice Chair Sparling is saying, that this issue with fire insurance is getting quite a lot of attention, and people are really suffering from it. So it's something that should be treated with urgency. And I'm totally in support of that. And having said that, looking at the red line on the amendments, these are fairly small additions, basically, to the actual actions. And I didn't really see anything objectionable there. Thank you.
Commissioner Brand.
Just going back to what the vice chair had just described, is there a recommendation you might consider, as we are obviously recommending this to council?
I don't have, that's the problem. I don't have a solution, except that we have to, in my opinion, what we have to do is pull this specific issue out of the objective design standard update and fix it standalone, and get it completed as soon as possible, because we know we're going to have applications coming in. Some of them may already be deemed complete. Like obviously the one that was moved from today to a couple weeks is already deemed complete. There may be another one that's coming that would be deemed complete. That may address the majority of the current projects that we know about in Brentwood, but I think it's important to get it done faster because it's a smaller portion, right? Rather than the bigger project, because the objective design standards is all encompassing. I don't know that timeline is going to actually work of December, and so now we could be into next fire season before we even have it, right? And so I think there needs to be a sense of urgency. So I'll look to Eric or Christy for some help on how we craft what we pass up to council to, if people are in agreement, to pull this out and update it faster.
Yeah, and through the chair, I'm not sure what the commission could do tonight in terms of the recommendation to adopt the safety element update, but I can commit to going back at the staff level, kind of putting our heads together and seeing what we might be able to do, and then reporting back either in the interim or at the next meeting.
And I would just add too that the updating the safety element is required by state law and was required to be done, concurrently with your housing element updates. So it's recommended that we get this safety element update approved by the council because state law does require its approval.
But I guess what I'm hearing from the vice chair is that we would explore something in parallel that might give us some kind of something that we can hang our hat on as far as a means to sufficing the request, right? Like, can we do something with occupancy permit or something like that, where, we've approved the project, but in order to take occupancy, it has to follow up, something like that, right? And Eric's probably one of the more qualified to sort of explore those types of options. Did I mischaracterize that? I don't know.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you. I think you did. I think we have to, when I think about government, right, we actually have to get something done, right? So the state, we can update the safety element, but at the same time, we have to fix a problem that we've known about, that has been spoken about at this commission back in November and December. And here we are in June, and the same issue is being brought up and could have been addressed for this update, right? So it's an opportunity missed. And so how do we catch up, I guess, is the best way to put it, so that we can actually address the issue that is affecting Brentwood residents today and will affect them tomorrow.
Yeah, totally understood. And I don't have any answers tonight, but like I said, we can go back at the staff level after tonight, and hopefully I can report out to the commission just like via email, like here's the approach, or here's some potential options. And at the very least, we can report back at the next meeting and go from there.
Okay.
And independent of continuing to work on developing the objective design standards, which we're already in the process of.
Okay, I appreciate that. So here's a question or an ask. So as these projects are coming before the planning department, while we're waiting on the completion of this document, is there any way that you can have a contingency placed in this project that protects everyone? In other words, because to let it go through without our completion here, it's troublesome. to say the least. So I'm just wondering if there's such a thing, and this probably is a legal question, whereas we are communicating and completing all the tasks involved before bringing this project before the commission, can you put a contingency in place? And, oh, by the way, while we're waiting on our report, just know that there are some things that could come up where we might have to revisit certain things in this project, because leaving it as it's a real big win for whomever is bringing a project before the planning department prior to the completion of this report, which we probably won't get until December, January of next year. I'm
Yeah.
wondering, I'm putting it out there as a contingency.
Yeah, and just to clarify, you mentioned this project a few times. You mean individual development? Individual development projects?
Yes.
Okay, just collectively.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, got it. Yeah, and there may be some legal ramifications that I'm not aware of yet, which is why I want to go back and talk to it. It wouldn't just be myself and the planners that are
Right.
coming up with this. We're gonna have to involve other people.
Sure.
But like I said, I'll do my best to get back to the commission in a timely manner, either through email or at the very next meeting.
Okay, that's fine by me. One other thing, and I brought it up, but I'll bring it up again, is community engagement. So because we have this before us, and there are quite a few developments about to find its way to Brentwood, I'm just wondering, and I did do my research on this safety element, how other municipalities have engaged their communities in this safety element. Now, I do know, having spoke with Jennifer, that many of them combine both the housing element and the safety update all in one. But we didn't do that. And so because we've got some pretty massive development coming into Brentwood, I'm just wondering if there was a consideration for the community to be involved or engaged or to report out to the community beyond just this document, to get their take on their concerns, because there are concerns. Vice Chair just mentioned one, but it is what I find a lot of the municipalities did engage in. So I'm just wondering if that's something that we could consider. It's an ask.
That is definitely something we could consider. As part of the application tonight, our request is that you make a recommendation to City Council. This does have to move forward to City Council. So as part of your recommendation tonight, a potential option could be to recommend that the City Council approve the application with something, along the lines of added social media outreach, letting them know, that the safety element is to be considered at the next City Council meeting.
I like that. Okay, I like that. Yeah. Okay, well, that being said, I'll go ahead and move forward in we've had the discussion, so I'm looking forward to a commission motion.
Okay. I make a motion to adopt resolution number 24-026 with the addition of, how are we putting that? To encourage City Council
What I would
to put public notification. Go ahead.
Yes, so I would recommend keeping the recommendation, as staff had put it, just to adopt the resolution as conditioned or as stated in the staff report. And then as an editorial, along with that is to recommend that staff does additional social media outreach ahead of the city council meeting. So the actual social media outreach and the direction to staff isn't actually part of the resolution that's approved tonight, but it's more of a direction to staff, which staff understands the direction and will go ahead and move forward with.
And I should put that in the motion, just as a, sure. All right, so I make a motion to adopt resolution number 24-026 to recommend the city council adopt a general plan amendment, GPA 24-002, as further detailed in the staff report. And further, just as an editorial, I make a we make a motion to recommend to city council that they direct staff to do public outreach to promote this item when it's coming before them. Is that good enough?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, very good. All right, let's move on to informational reports from committees and upcoming meetings. Transplan,
No meeting.
design review,
No meeting.
land use and development. There was a meeting and I was absent, so I can't report out. Sorry. I'll report next meeting. That being said, we'll move on to requests for future agenda items, new requests. Do we have any future agenda item requests?
I have some.
Okay, very good.
So,
Commissioner Floyd?
this was taking inspiration from our educational meeting last time. I had a couple thoughts that I was just going to put out as process things. And again, I want staff to understand that when I suggest a process improvement, I'm not being accusatory or not in favor of staff. I just genuinely want to make the process work smoother for everybody, staff and the commission. And I offer these suggestions in that spirit. One thing that he said, and it did kind of echo something that we heard in the Commissioners Academy, was that we should watch notices, and when we see a notice come by, we should kind of contact staff and ask for documentation as it comes out on each notice. But from a process point of view, I feel like that's kind of burdensome both on commission and on staff, because each commissioner has to watch all the notices, and then staff can be getting different requests from different commissioners to pull different things, and it's time consuming. So what I was going to propose is that that we ask staff, just as a courtesy, to create just a procedure to be aware of each notification as it comes out, and just drop us an email when a document is published for a noticed item. And then we could, and just the email would just be say, hey, this is a noticed item, it's this one, and here's a link to a new document you might be interested in looking at. We're supposed to be having this meeting, this item will be presented to you on such and such a date. Then that way, we would have some of these things ahead of time. But if it's burdensome to staff, I don't want to do it, but it's just a request that I would make, and we can discuss that. Another thing that I would like to do is, whenever a public notification goes out about business coming before the Planning Commission of any sort, that the recommended email be planningcommission@brentwoodca.gov instead of planning@brentwoodca.gov. And that would be so that commissioners see the emails coming in real time. This would be helpful to me. We kind of used to get a lot of emails directly to the Planning Commission, and I was able to respond to each one. I had, text and everything. And when I get them in a packet, on Monday or Tuesday afternoon, and then to try to respond to them, I can't just hit reply and respond, So, and it also doesn't give me a lot of time over the weekend. If somebody has something they want me to think about as a planning commissioner, or any of us really, we like to hear about that ahead of time because the public engagement is very important to us. So I would just ask for that change that we, just for things that are coming before us, that we always recommend Planning Commission at brentwoodca.gov instead of planning. And that would be that only one. The last one is a little bit more difficult. The training that we've had up to now, both the Commissioners Academy and the training that we had last time, is very process-oriented. This is what happens. This is what you can expect to see. This is how you should react. What I'm really interested in and having more training on is how that we can exercise whatever discretion we have in our office to push forward the desires of the public, which, we were talking in that meeting about how the public would like to see shorter meetings or something. And, I'm from the public. I got here by being a part of the public, and I can assure you I never once complained about how long a meeting was. What I think the public in Brentwood cares about, business owners, residents, homeowners, anybody that's already invested in this community, they care about traffic, they care about noise, they care about crowding, they care about, people being able to, they care about quality of life. And, that was something that we discussed. So that was something like when we discussed, when the City Council discussed PA1, that was something that was really important that they impressed on the consultants. Quality of life is what Brentwood is. People want Brentwood to be the jewel of East County. And I think everybody wants that, and I think staff wants that. So if we can get training on how we can best work within the system to give the people more of what they care about, how can we make decisions that are compliant? We always want to comply with the law, but give us the broadest amount of discretion to maintain the standards that make Brentwood special. So that's what I'd like to discuss at the next meeting. Is that okay?
Was that it?
I'm sorry. Yeah, that was it.
Okay.
That last one, I know it's a little nebulous, but I think you get where I'm going with it. I just care about the people. That's what I'm saying.
So through the chair, can I just respond to each of those? And then for clarification purposes primarily, I think the first two are pretty easy fixes that we could certainly implement, right away. And I can follow up outside of the meeting, not waiting for the next meeting, right? With the commission just confirming. The last one, what I would suggest is, bringing it back as an actual, discussion item. And we can label it as, another training session that would drill down on that kind of specific topic area.
Sure.
And I think that would allow the commission the opportunity to ask the questions back and forth of staff. I would just recommend that it would be, myself and Christy or Katie, whoever's here, and, other planning staff that are here. I don't think we would need to bring anybody else in per se. And certainly the public would be able to attend and participate as well.
As an item for discussion, last time I had a discussion item, I came in with like 4 pages of stuff that I had written, and the commission had not had really an opportunity to see it, partly because I wrote it that afternoon. But would it be more appropriate for me to write some notes ahead of time and provide them to staff so they can get into the agenda as to say, like, this is what I'm kind of getting at, so that when we discuss it, there's a little bit more meat to it than, or should I just bring my notes and try?
Well, what I would say for that one is we could follow the normal process where we would put it back on an agenda, have the commission open discussion so that we're super clear on what the commission wants to see, and then we'll bring it back for that third time, which would be the actual training per se.
Okay, perfect. All right.
Does that work?
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Brand?
No, nothing for me.
Commissioner Spaulding?
No, I was going to ask for the fire defensible spaces to be brought back, but I'll wait.
Okay. Well, I'd like to embark on traffic study, something that has been a concern of mine for as long as I've been on this commission. And so what I'd like to do is ask that we take a look at the TIA, the traffic impact analysis, a little more closely. I understand that we have a gentleman that is overseeing that department, but I'd like to know exactly how he determines or how we need to have a conversation about trip generation, some of the systemic examinations, but more importantly, the potential traffic issues that could stem from proposed traffic issues related to proposed projects. So we've got these big projects coming in to Brentwood, and we have these traffic studies, or I can't bring up the Orchard, but it's been communicated in that document that there's no need for a traffic study. And so my concern is, it's great, the engineer is the engineer, but the people, the residents in this community feel something different, okay? And so I would like for us to really do a deep dive on the traffic study issue, because it is an issue in Brentwood. And it is going to become a lot more engaging when it comes to just sitting in places. And I can communicate out that on Minnesota Avenue, when that school lets out, you're stuck in traffic. There's no question about it. And people live in that area. That's just an example. But I would like to bring back, have a conversation about traffic generation as it relates to the traffic impact analysis and how we are determining, especially around proposed projects, how we move forward with that. Because bringing to this commission that there's no traffic study needed, that's not going to work out for me. Okay? And I'm just speaking on behalf of the residents that live here. It's enough already with Highway 4, but then coming into their own communities to be engaged in more traffic seems to be a real issue. And I think it's going to get a lot worse. So I'd like to bring that back. I'd like for that to be a future agenda item.
So through the chair, just to clarify real quick, so we can do that. And then are you kind of envisioning somewhat of like a training session on traffic in particular as well? So, Commissioner Floor has his request about sort of process-related stuff, and then this could be focused on traffic issues as a whole, and you could ask a host of questions related to that, right?
Yeah.
Is that the idea? Okay.
That's the idea. Or at least
Okay.
that's a start.
Sure.
Okay?
Okay, we can do that.
I know we can't discuss it, but listening to Commissioner Floor and Chair Roberts, what I think would be helpful, if we're going to go down this path of both of this, is to actually do it in maybe even a workshop, so that the members of the public can actually participate more in the conversation versus speaking for 5 minutes or 3 minutes and then no back and forth, because I think there's a lot of questions about specifically for Commissioner, and again, if Christy, if I'm stepping over the line because it's not agendized, let me know. But in terms of like what our decision tree looks like, right, when something's before us, I think that's kind of the root of what Commissioner Flora was getting at. Like, why do we have to approve something? If we don't approve something, what are our avenues, and how do we legally justify, either an approval or a denial? And I think the same thing's around traffic, right? Because these topics, every time a new development comes up, even when the Innovation Center comes up, hopefully soon, right? There's going to be a lot, even though everyone's going to want it, there's going to be a lot of questions around traffic and all of that. So I think if we're going to do that, that might be a beneficial way to have that as more of a workshop rather than just a presentation to the Planning Commission. Just a thought to think about. No decisions, obviously, but.
Sure, and I just to kind of respond a little bit there, CEQA used to drive, no pun intended, our traffic analysis, right? And the legislator has, fairly recently determined that what we normally think of as traffic, level of service, the speed at which we move through the road, that's no longer an environmental impact. So if you've seen a change in sort of the amount of traffic studies that have been done as part of review and consideration of development projects, that's because there has been a change to CEQA, fairly recently in terms of, what the legislator has decided is a traffic impact or not. So I just want to kind of throw that out there too as a short answer to that question, but I definitely think that, like Eric said, that staff can put something together in terms of sort of outlining the process that you and Commissioner Floor have some questions about, and putting together some kind of study session or workshop on that process.
Yeah, and I understand the CEQA change, and it's going to shock no one in this room that when I say I don't agree with a lot that the state has to say about many topics, especially something that around traffic, because it's trying to drive a narrative around the housing element. It's not about the impact to quality of life of towns like Brentwood. So I think, something where it's more interactive than 5 minutes, so they can ask follow-up questions, we can respond to questions, right? I think that's going to be more beneficial to the members of the public who are actively engaged, and maybe drive additional engagement around both topics, and it may help in both in the short run and the long run.
Yeah, and we can figure out the logistics as we get closer, but I would recommend that it be held as part of a regular meeting like we're doing tonight, but then maybe the format could be a little bit more informal to encourage more participation. So we can call it a workshop or whatever everyone's comfortable with, but I get your point.
Appreciate that. All right. Thank you. And we'll move on to future agenda requests from Vice Chair Spalding, who wants to discuss possible changes to the 300-foot notification requirement for public hearing items. So the floor is yours, Vice Chair Spalding.
Thank you. I think this is, in my mind, a fairly simple request. You all are aware that I had to recuse myself from a project that I was less than 1,000 feet away from because it was ruled by the FPPC, if I'm using the right acronym, because I could financially benefit or be hurt by that. And so that's fine, right? But then when I think about notification of the public, and the example I use in the training, right, is if a nuclear power plant's going to be built 301 feet away from my house and I don't get noticed on it, then how am I going to know about it, right? Because in a commuter town like Brentwood, where 80% of the people leave Brentwood to go to work, sometimes things get missed, you don't notice things. And so if I'm going to be effective or impacted financially, because as someone on the Planning Commission or City Council, and so I have to recuse myself from an item where I live within 1,000 feet from, I think simply we should match the notification to the public who are going to be impacted by a project to 1,000 feet. The state comes up with the 300. We've just followed the state recommendations, and here I go again disagreeing with the state, but it's going to probably be a theme forever. But I think it's just common sense, right? I think government does a lot of things that make a lot of sense, and sometimes they don't. Some are hard to change, like we just heard about CEQA, right? Some are easy to change. This is within our control. Certainly, there'll be a little bit more expense because of, reaching out to the public, but I think it's minimal, and the reward greatly outweighs the increased cost for notification to drive participation. I just think about some of the meetings we've had where we've had a ton of turnout, right? And that's because the residents rallied around those projects, right? Whether the comments were in favor or against the project, it was good to get more engagement rather than less. And I think increasing it to 1,000 feet will do nothing more than increase the amount of participation. That's all.
Appreciate that. Okay. That being said, I'm going to open it up for public comment.
We have no speaker cards for those present in the chambers. And anyone on Zoom who would like to speak, please raise your hand. We have no hands raised.
Thank you, Miss April. Okay, at this time, are there any discussion by the commissioners? Commissioner Floyd.
Yeah, I just want to say that I find Vice Chair Sparling's logic to be very compelling. I mean, it just makes sense. If the FPPC is under the persuasion that 1,000 feet is going to affect somebody financially enough that they shouldn't be ruling on it, I think that that's a pretty good indication that anybody within 1,000 feet is going to have an interest in a project. I mean, I get that, the difference in a circle of 300 feet and 1,000 feet is, quite a bit. You're adding a lot of area. I suppose it's, pi times the difference. Anyway, so I would be interested in hearing from staff about, the potential cost of doing something like that. But I think the logic of it, it just makes good common sense. People want to know what's going on around them. And I think it would also encourage more public participation, which is something that we're always interested in. So yeah, I think it's a really good idea.
Commissioner Spaulding? I'm sorry.
Yeah, there's a lot of truth to, I think, what the vice chair has described. My only devil's advocate is that, 1,000 feet is important for a body like ours because we're held to a higher standard. But at the same time, the inverse is also true for a resident because the opposite is true in terms of they should be aware because it's possibly impacting them, whether it's, positive or negative. It's happening near them, and it's important that they're aware of it. So I can see how, I don't exactly see that 300 feels very arbitrary considering the circumstances that we operate in. And I think it's only fair that we give the public as large of an opportunity to participate, to help pull their heads up from their own lives and give them an opportunity to speak as frequently as possible. And 1,000 feet feels even small, in my opinion. Could even be even bigger, but nonetheless, it makes sense.
Well, I concur with your concern, and I think that just it's quite contradictory as my statement on the subject matter. So that's all I really need to say on that topic. Is there anything more you would like to add to the discussion, Commissioner Spaulding?
I would just say that, the devil's advocate, there'll be increased cost. And yes, when you look at a circle, 1,000 feet is much, bigger than, the distance in a straight line. But I think this is 3.5 years on the commission, and it is pretty constant that when we have I'll call it, just term it controversial project, not like the one we had tonight, there has always been at least one person who said, I live right by the area, but I didn't know about it. Because maybe they don't drive that way for the sign, right? And they're outside the 300 feet and they had something to say. Whether it was in favor or against, it doesn't really matter. They had something to say. So this isn't an academic exercise, and I think we should just match it to match it. This has had an impact on people not knowing about it. And when you go back to the 80% of the people commute, they have to plan to be here. If they have to plan to be here, they have to know about it, right? So it sounds like people, no one's against it so far. I know we haven't voted on it yet, but I guess my question to Eric would be it's in the code 17.800-009, it's A2, right? How do we, if a motion is made, is that the proper protocol to amend the code?
Thank you for asking that. Yes, so similar to some of the recent future agenda item requests, Commissioner Floor had the open space issue. Vice Chair Sparling, you had the traffic issue in the kind of Grant, Adams, Lone Oak area. Those were both voted on and basically pushed up to the City Council for discussion. So I would recommend the commission do the same thing with this item, and in particular because it involves an amendment to the municipal code, which the council would be involved in directing a change to and then ultimately approving any change. So that would be my recommendation at this point.
Okay, great. Well, okay. Well, that being said, I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion to recommend to City Council that we update the City Municipal Code 17.800.009A2, the owners of all property within 300 feet of the subject site as shown on the latest equalized assessment rolls to read 1,000 feet.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
The motion carries. Okay, very good. Well, at this time, I'm going to look for a motion to adjourn. Our next regular Planning Commission meeting is scheduled for July 2nd. Am I correct in that?
The next regularly scheduled meeting is actually June 18th, but we don't anticipate any
Yes.
business items, so that's a likely cancellation.
Okay.
But
all
that's
right.
what you would be adjourning to.
And it'll be held here in Council Chambers located at 150 City Park Way. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Very good. I will see you guys in